I'm Mike,
And I'm Amber. Welcome to the Covenant Chronicles,
where we tell you the truth about relationships.
giving you the tools to build the foundation you always needed. Welcome back to the Covenant Chronicles.
Why, hello.
Hello. Forgot to come up with like some sort of joke for the opening act this time.
Are we doing jokes?
I don't know. I was just trying to spice it up a little
What, chicken cross the road?
to get to the other side.
Dang.
I don't think that counts as a joke.
What kind of joke? You want a dirty joke or what?
Sure.
I could tell my dog and wife joke.
Dog and wife joke?
Yeah, how do you know dog's really man's best friend? Put your dog and your wife in the trunk of your car, drive around for a little bit, and see which one comes out happy to see you.
Okay.
Not good, huh?
Dogs don't have the same emotions, but they're just happy all the time.
That's why they're man's best friend.
I mean, it'd be nice to have simple dog emotions, but here we are.
Anyways, kicking it off with a really bad joke and talking about dogs.
Yeah, because, you know.
Dobie
Remy
the not free elf.
Remy over there wanting all the attention again.
Uh-huh.
So, what are we talking about today?
Well, I wanted to, we've been kind of dancing around this mindset topic for a little bit, and I don't believe this is going to encompass the way in which we fully want to talk about mindset. However, there's been some stuff recently. Well, not recently. Recently. That we overcame, and I think that would be a really good thing because it's probably pretty common inside of relationships, and it is very relative to mindset. And essentially this is, we talk about being playful and being fun inside of the relationship, right? And you were struggling, it was probably a week or so ago now, because we were taking a shower together and we got on some serious topics, and they weren't bad topics. It's stuff that we needed to discuss. It was just not fun, playful topics.
Yeah.
And basically, we had kind of discussed this stuff, and we let the mindset shift, or the mindset go towards like this, oh no, what are we going to do type mentality, right? Which then left us not having fun at all. And, we take showers together fairly often, and it's not always like a sexual thing, right? Like sometimes it's just having some time, some quiet time to have conversation, right? Time to be close and intimate, sometimes it is, sexual, but it can encompass all these different things. And so what had happened is we started going down this rabbit hole, right? And it put us in this bad mindset area. And it made, like I said, we went towards this, oh no, what are we going to do type mindset, as opposed to, okay, what are possible solutions? Well, maybe we don't have an answer, but at least we got to, express some possible solutions, and we can move on with our day. And what was interesting is you had basically said at the, you expressed frustration at the end of the shower, and, we're getting out, we're trying off, and, you got kind of frustrated because you said, this is, we haven't been as playful lately, or, we weren't being playful, and we keep getting stuck in this trap. And, I acknowledged that. And we kind of came to this agreement where, we agreed that, okay, we needed to focus this last week on being a little more playful and fun. And so we did. And it didn't exactly go the way that we were hoping, right? And some of that, like it became this thing, right? We didn't have as much intimacy as we would have liked. There was various reasons, but a lot of it was just disconnection, right? And it was a week where you would put in more effort into that than I did. And towards the end of the week, you got frustrated with that as well. And we were able to actually shift this around coming into, um, I guess, the following weekend, in which, we did connect. Saturday we were intimate and we had some fun, and, we were playful and joking and this and that. And, um, we took a shower together again, and it was a combination of, just us being intimate. It was a combination of us doing sexual things. It was a combination of us actually having a conversation. And it was a similar conversation to the one we had had basically the previous weekend in the shower, right? And came out vastly different, right? Because we didn't necessarily even create a solution to some of the things that we needed to create a solution for. But we discussed it. We threw out options. We, you know, basically said, hey, here's some possibilities. And essentially we moved on with our day,
Mm-hmm.
right? And why this is important is because what I realize, because, well, let me add a little more context to this, right? We're actively going through some stuff, it- for, I don't know what you would even call it, like marital certification, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that they had basically gone through and gone over is how couples actually, navigate topics that they're struggling to communicate on, right? With big life choices. And what I found so interesting is that in this, as I pieced this together, right? And as we were, we navigated through this ourselves, and we did it because we have practiced this before, right? And when we realized, hey, we're not connecting on this area, we're not connecting on this topic, um, we just, kind of, okay, take a pause, move on, focus on building connection, and then we come back to it, right? And then we have this same type of process where it is this process of, okay, well, maybe you're not going to come to an answer right away, but you can put down, 10 possible solutions to your problem with your spouse. You guys spend time coming up together, and then you just at least eliminate a couple of the ones that are like, okay, this is not, like, this doesn't even make sense, right?
Yeah.
And then you can use this to kind of come together and start eliminating basically things that, okay, this doesn't work for either of us. Because the challenge is we get trapped in our own mindset, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then we can't even see the bigger picture. And it really got me thinking about this in our mindset as we're navigating things inside of our relationship, right? And this is especially true with these bigger topics, with these more challenging decisions, where our mindset is shaped around past experiences, or, things that we've been through, or uh, past even patterns within our own brain. And what happens is this mindset almost hinders us from actually being able to move forward, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because had we kept addressing, things the same way we addressed, say, a weekend prior, it would have been this typical thing that couples fall into, where they try to address something and it basically turns into an argument. And really, when you break down, like in that moment, it may very well feel like you're it turned into an argument because one person is doing this or that, or you're doing this or that, or whatever the case may be, right? But in all reality, when you really look at most of these situations, it's because both parties are stuck in a certain mindset that they're not even open to, well, let me work with my partner to find a solution, right?
Mhm.
Because in a lot of cases, the solution very well might be something that they both want or are both willing to compromise on, but both parties just want to feel heard and like they had a valuable input, right? And so
Mhm.
our mindset in these situations becomes this like brick wall of like, if it's not this perfect thing that I've created in my head, everything else is invalid,
Yeah.
right? And it really got me thinking because it's the same thing we saw in that training, right? And it was funny because we had just done or we had navigated something ourselves, and basically it's kind of, I guess, like a validation, right? Of like, here we are doing this training for marital and premarital um, advisory or therapy or whatever you want to label it as, uh, and the technique that they're basically choosing to promote for problem solving major life decisions is something that we had done this last week, but it
Yeah.
was this combination of witnessing our own navigation of that as well as this training that made me like really look at this stuff as like how much of this is really just related to our mindset, and just the fact that like it's not even the fact that we can't agree or the couple can't agree. It's that their mindset won't even allow them to have a conversation so that the couple can problem solve together.
Yeah, it's interesting because we had several conversations this past week about our mindset and how our mindset had been kind of jacked up. Like, you were dealing with some stuff that had thrown you into a bad mindset. Was dealing with stuff that had thrown me into a bad mindset, and like we just were not connecting because we both were in our heads about some stuff that, you know, we shouldn't have necessarily been in our heads about. And it just carried on throughout the week, which, by the end of the week kind of came to a point where we like had a conversation about it, and we're trying to like really figure out you know, how for us to both like change our mindset and move forward type of thing. And I had like a really good day on Thursday, and just like really shifted my mindset and had a lot of like super positive stuff that day, and just was like, dude, I'm finally on like an upswing. Like, we've got this and I'm doing great. And you and I kind of had a moment later that day, and it kind of threw me off again. And I had to like really work in myself to fix that again and not let it just like drag us back down into a sucky place again. But we had to have a conversation about our connection this week and our intimacy and our relationship in general, and just like how we were not necessarily handling things the way that we wanted to, and that we didn't want to get into a cycle of being stuck, really.
Mm.
And you know, Friday morning I went and hung out with a friend for a little bit, and like the kids just played and stuff, and we were kind of talking about stuff. And I was kind of explaining to her like the like that we had a conversation about things, and like that you do a really good job of actually like listening, and us being able to like communicate through things. And it was like a good reminder, because she was like, I'm really proud of the way that you guys, like, handle things. Like, it's really cool, like, you guys are really good at that, and it was just, like, a reminder of, like, "Oh, yeah," like, sometimes we get into spots that are kinda tricky to navigate, but, like, we've made so much progress, in our relationship and, like, working through things and being able to talk through things and navigate through things. And sometimes, like, we get in our own heads about it and kind of forget that, like, that's, something that we have in our relationship, I guess.
Yeah.
Um,
It's funny you mentioned that because I actually thought through this recently, and it was I meant to actually have a conversation with you about this, so we'll sidetrack just real quick, but it had to do with our actually mindset as well, and the fact that sometimes we are hard on ourselves because we feel like we're not where we should be, right?
mhm,
And then we take a step back and we say, well, we do it better than probably 99% of most couples. But it's important for us to remember and for everybody else to remember that it's not a comparison race.
yeah,
And so it's that drive of, I know I can do better, that will keep you improving and keep you constantly working on your relationship to continue to try and get you to a better and better place.
mhm, yeah, that's true. I don't know, it was interesting and kind of like that reminder of like, "Hey, you you're doing a good job, you're on the right track," type of thing. Um, which we've had a lot of those this week, whether it's, uh, like going to the gym and creating consistent healthy habits again, and how we frame our mind around going to the gym and being healthy. And interestingly enough, like every time this past week that I've had kind of like a mind a mindset shift, trying to combine words here, um that I will like have this mindset shift and kind of like talk to you about it and tell you like what I'm thinking and how I want to shift like my frame of thought around it. And then I'll be led to go and read something in the Bible that like directly correlates with it,
Hmm.
and how, that's how we should be viewing things and like how our mindset should be. And it's just been a very interesting week of that, because as my mindset shifts towards something, and I think you've done the same thing, we're usually reminded that, like, that's how it's supposed to be. Like, that's what Jesus says to do. That's what God is telling us to do, and you mention it a lot in the podcast about how, like, these are things Jesus talked about, but it's just now, like, catching up in science and everything. But, being able to shift your mindset more positively and being open to it, because I think that's part of it is, like, when you're open to changing your mindset and being open to hearing what God has to say about it also, He'll often show you, like, "This is what you should be thinking. This is what you should be doing." And I've had a lot of, like, prayer time this week where I've been praying about something as well, and then, I'll get this thought to go look up something specific, and it'll just happen to be exactly what I was praying about or whatever, and, like, correlates directly to it, and then I'm able to shift my mindset around that as well. So, it's been kind of an interesting week for mindset shifts, and yeah, I don't.
I was looking up I was trying to find the exact scripture here that goes along with what you were saying, and it's the one that I quote most frequently around that is Romans 12:2, and it says, "Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God and what is good and acceptable and perfect."
Yeah.
It is, there has been a lot of mindset shifts this week, and as you can, when I think of this, I think about, with my younger boys, they love to build Legos, and they have these green, pads, like a foot by a foot, and they're Lego pads, right? And they basically build up Legos on the pads. And this mindset stuff is very much like that, right? And when our mindset is not where it needs to be, we it's like when you have all these Legos and these pieces just sitting there and you don't know what to do with them. But as you start clicking these pieces together and you start focusing on shifting your mindset, right? It starts to take shape. And with each thing that you can overcome and shift your mindset in your life, right? It just shifts the stuff just a little bit more to where you start getting more and more of these pieces built up to where you start seeing the creation that you're trying to build,
Mhm.
right? And this is something that you just consistently see over and over and over again in life and in your relationship where, if you can overcome some of these things, most of the challenges that people experience in relationships and their issues with communication and not being able to overcome, conversations or make these hard decisions and then going down this rabbit hole of, okay, well, we're just going to avoid this topic because we don't want to fight. And then you do that enough times, right, throughout your relationship that all this stuff gets built up and you guys really aren't moving your life forward at all. You're not moving the needle forward. You're just existing, right? And then
Mhm.
you see this turn into like the roommate phase that people talk about. And it just has to do with, if people could really focus on shifting their mindset and just tweaking it, right? Just making the small things add up, right? I saw this video today and it was talking about small actions and how they lead to big things. And it was a fantastic visualization, right? Because it was like a domino thing where the things knocked over, right?
Mhm.
But it started with this little teeny tiny one that the guy had to use tweezers to to pick it up and to set it down because it was so tiny you couldn't even really do it with your fingers, right? And the very last one in the line was probably 3 foot by 2 foot,
Mhm.
maybe 3 foot tall by a foot and a half, something like that, and weighed 100 pounds.
Mhm.
And when you think about it, it's like, well, how would this little tiny thing knock that over? But it's just that small tweak leads to a bigger tweak, right? And then these dominoes start falling, and pretty soon that big domino on the other end, which is the big wall holding back, your relationship, tumbles over,
Yeah.
and you're looking at this whole new vision of your relationship, of your spouse, of how all of these things come together. And like I said, it just starts with those small tweaks to your mindset, and like for us, just having a different view of like, well, what was our goal, right? And our conversation was really around um our vision, right? Because we
Mm.
went back and we talked about vision before and how important it is to build a vision with your partner, especially because it will give you a lighthouse, right? To basically go towards, because like the purpose of the lighthouse is for the ships to be able to find, where to go in the dark, right?
Yeah.
And so with these things, it is very much the same with your relationship, right? And that's exactly what we did, right? Because it's funny, we talk about all these things and it's sometimes I wonder like do people think this is BS, right? And then it's funny because we actually do practice these things, right? We
Yeah.
talked about the visions board. We talked about our board with our 2026 results on it, right? And really, we had topics in our life that were these big decisions that we, the weekend prior kind of created some disconnection because we weren't uh, attacking the conversation very well. And the thing is we didn't even argue like most people did.
Mhm.
We just kind of got in our own heads about the decisions, right?
Yeah.
And then we come to this point of a week later. Okay, well, let's talk about this. This is where we're at. Okay, well, why? Okay, well, we really like this is our vision. So if this is truly what our vision is supposed to be, how do we start taking steps? Because we both kind of agreed that we've been a bit distracted, right? And we've allowed stuff to detour us from our vision. And if we were to make some tweaks in our life and make some temporary sacrifices that potentially people from the outside wouldn't necessarily understand or might not see, right? It would actually get us closer to our vision much faster and be able to accomplish, these things that we want to accomplish in 5, 10 years down the road, right?
Mhm.
And we use that to reframe our mindset. And instead of being in this, like, I don't know, oh my goodness, how do we figure this out kind of mindset, we used our vision to reshape it and say, well, maybe we don't have 100% of the answers right now, but can we eliminate a couple of the possibilities? And we did,
Mhm.
right? And then we were able to take a couple steps forward. And now we can continue to step forward, step forward, step forward, just a little at a time, and start knocking down these little dominoes that are going to knock down bigger dominoes that eventually gets all of these things solved. But by us shifting our mindset, we brought back the fun, right?
Mhm.
And we could probably both agree that, this last or this weekend or this last weekend, however you want to phrase it, we could have probably done still a couple little things to like together to joke and be more fun. But we did have a lot of fun, We
Yeah.
we were intimate. We did, have some fun bedroom activities. We did have fun, jokey discussions. We did, have playfulness back. We did all these sort of things. And it was really that it wasn't that we solved all of our problems, right? But we were able to shift our mindset to a different point of view, which then ultimately led to reconnection as opposed to disconnection.
Yeah. Well, and just like to give a good idea of what that looks like, I guess, would be like one thing that was shifted this week was like looking, said earlier, looking at the gym differently, but my
Hmm.
vision of that went from like, oh, well, we need to go to the gym and we need to eat better just because we want to look better, right? It went from that to, hey, I'm going to not look at this like that anymore. I'm going to look at going to the gym as me just getting stronger and feeling the strongest that I can feel, feeling the best that I can feel in my body, like striving towards doing things that I want to do, like lifting heavy weights and being able to run for an extended period of time. Like those things are things that I want to do to feel better for me. But in doing that, I'm stewarding my body to keep my body healthy, to keep me physically healthy, not because I'm trying to do it to get validation from others, not so that others will look at me and think that I look good. Like that's how I used to look at things, and that's the reason that I wanted those things previously. But that mindset leads you to failing every time because you're going to hit a point where it's just like, "Oh, I don't care. I just don't feel like it today." I just whatever, as opposed to framing it in the mindset of like, I'm doing my best to steward my body to be healthy.
Mhm.
And like I said, whenever I like thought about it that way and kind of started framing my mindset around it that way, I was led to First Corinthians, which talks a lot about stewarding your body and, eating properly and keeping yourself healthy and that sort of thing. So if you're in the same, kind of place and thinking those sort of things, I would say go read First Corinthians because it's um, a really good reminder of how we should look at things. But so when we say that we're like shifting our mindset around things, that these are like some of the small things that we're shifting our mindset around and how that actually looks. Cause I know sometimes we can be like, oh, well, we're shifting our mindset. And, you're probably like, if that's not something that you have ever done, probably like, well, what does that even mean? What does that even look like? You know, Another one could be like, we have not been, as connected and intimate and stuff as we would like lately. And a simple like mindset shift that you had was like, oh, I'm going to change how I sleep at night
Mhm.
because I can tell that that's messing with our connection and our intimacy and all of those things. So I'm going to change the way that I sleep at night to help with that.
Well, and to take it a level deeper, the mindset shift there was not about instantaneous comfort, right? Because the part of the argument was like the way I was sleeping and the way I would lay in the bed and all those sort of things would kind of make me feel instantly comfortable, but then I slept like crap throughout the night, right?
Mhm.
And so the mindset shift there was no, I'm going to not be instantly comfortable, but the flip side is that it'll build our connection because I'll be closer with you and I'll get better sleep, which then leads to me not being as tired, which then leads to a whole bunch of other benefits as well.
Right. So, you know, if you can just start like doing little mindset shifts like that and figuring out like areas of your life where you're not happy or content with the way that things are, and figuring out how you can just shift your mindset to look at it slightly differently than you were looking at it before. And if before you were doing it for, a validation reason, oh, well, I'm going to figure out how to shift that so that I'm not doing it for other people to validate me, how do I do these things for me and because God asked me to do them, that sort of shift. Um and a big one for us is just like we get into moments where we are disconnected and we have to remind ourselves like this is a covenant and like this is what we chose to be here and be in a biblical covenant together, and what does that look like and are we stewarding that at this time or not. So just a little insight into how to like kind of shift perspective, if
Hmm.
you will.
Yeah. I mean, and it just starts with the conversations you have inside your head. You know,
Yeah.
you want to, your brain's going to believe whatever you tell it. So if you have to say the things out loud that you want to make it, make the change, like, or say it in your head, like you said, that shift of a mindset, like, I'm going to work out because I want to steward the body that God has given me, right?
Yeah.
Now, if I'm seeking good stewardship of all the blessings that I've been provided, one of them is health. So I shouldn't just throw that away by putting whatever in my body and, by just not working out, not doing the things that I need to do to, be healthy.
Right. So I would say, if there's one thing that you could do this week to really work on that, is start somewhere small. Just again, think of something in your life that you're, you know, not content with at the moment, and how can you shift your mindset around that? A silly one for us has been one of our cars is like been such a pain in the butt lately. It seems like every day there's something new wrong with it. And we've had this conversation this week of like, okay, but if we don't shift our mindset around it, then we're just going to keep being irritated about the car being an issue. So instead of constantly being like, I hate this car, being like, I'm not super fond of this car, but it does provide me transportation. It is warm when it's
Well, and
cold
that's
outside.
and that's
It
the first
is.
step, right? Like when you talk about stages, because at the end of the day, you want to eliminate that stuff altogether. However, your mind, um, when you say but, your mind disqualifies anything you said before that, right? So the step one is, if you're not in the mindset, to just like completely tell yourself, oh, I love this car. This car's great, blah, 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 or whatever it is in your life, right? Then saying, well, this, this, and the other. But here's all these positives, right?
Yeah.
Then that's the step one,
Yeah.
right? And then the next step is you're just going right to the positives.
Right. It warmed up this morning. It got me to where I needed to go.
Right. Right.
It was a roof over my head.
Right.
Like you just start small and take it from there.
Yep.
So,
So on that note, this week's challenge is going to be actually shifting your mindset.
yeah.
So go write down 5 things that you would like to change your mindset on in your life and in your relationship. And then I want you to focus on just one. Start with just one. Doesn't have to be in any particular order, but you focus on that this week. And you start changing your conversation around that and just small things, right? If you can't completely shift it, you just start with the small things and say, this, that, and the other, but this is great. This is da 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 da. Like whatever that case may be, right?
Yep.
And focus on that. Normally we say go do the relationship audit.
Yeah.
But I think there's going to be some changes around that.
Yeah.
So that's more stuff we can talk about at a later date. There's more changes in general
Yeah.
that are coming. So if you want to do the relationship audit, we would highly encourage it. You can go to the covenantchronicles.com and it will take you right to it. At least currently, it says relationship audit at the top on the computer screen. If you're on a tablet or phone, the little 2 bars on the left-hand side, click that, go down to the thing that says relationship audit. But your focus this week, changing your conversation, changing your mindset around topics in your life and in your relationship. Write down 5, pick one, and for the next week, you focus on changing your conversation around that one thing.
There you have it. Go do that this week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, until next time.
Bye, guys.